With the Marvel Cinematic Universe's wrap-up of the Infinity Saga, reboots and sequels invading the horizon, and the impending doom of another Star Wars trilogy from the people who ruined Game of Thrones, no! The discussion of franchise fatigue taking over the film industry has gotten more and more common. A lot of people are beginning to feel tired of these franchises, but is it really the franchise itself to blame? Since 2008's Iron Man, there have been 22 films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, including Far From Home. That's an average of 2 films per year for 11 years. Seems tiring, right? Well, it's not because of the sheer amount of movies, but because these movies share so many qualities. Before I get into this, I want to say that I actually love a lot of these movies, particularly the Avengers installments. This includes Civil War, because let's face it, it's an Avengers movie. I grew up with a lot of these films, specifically Iron Man, so Endgame was a very satisfying conclusion for me. That being said, there's a lot of issues with the MCU that I'd like to see fixed in the next phase to make it feel fresh, so let's get into those similar qualities. Everyone loves the Avengers. People, myself included, have fallen in love with the majority of these characters, specifically the heroes. The problem is the villains. Does anyone remember this guy? I mean, he looks cool, I guess. Wait, they made a Hulk movie? Cool design, vague motivation, Infinity Stone bad. Defeated by Dance-Off, also wants an Infinity Stone. Did anyone watch this movie? Okay, I know no one saw this one. Underutilized, but we don't really want any Universal Hulk movies now, do we? You know, Mads Mikkelsen really deserved better. His makeup was cool, though. You made fucking Syndrome the villain of the third Iron Man movie?
I mean, after all, I am your biggest fan.
Oh, wow. Hey, Tony. Aldrich Killian. I'm a big fan of your work.
My work?
He needs me.
Well, of course, but...
Buddy?
My name is not Buddy! And it's not Incrediboy either. That ship has sailed. All I wanted was to help you. I only wanted to help. And what did you say to me?
Fly home, buddy. I work alone.
Yo, ditch these clowns. I'll see you up on the roof in 5 minutes. Just gonna try to get my beak wet real quick. You know what I'm talking about?
I'll see you up there.
Damn betcha.
Who's super now? I'm Syndrome, your nemesis in it. I am the Mandarin!
This dude went on the internet for 5 seconds and decided that humanity needed to be destroyed. He must have checked out 4chan. Okay, this one I actually like, but maybe that's just because it's Cate Blanchett. I didn't see this one either. I can't. Nazi! Okay, so not too many particularly compelling villains in the MCU. Who am I kidding? They're almost all Saturday morning cartoon bad guys. This is why villains like Thanos are so refreshing. They're not blank slates who are just fucking evil because they're complicated people with real goals, wants, emotions, and most importantly, threat. Say what you will about Spider-Man Homecoming, I know a lot of people, myself included, have a number of issues with the handling of Spider-Man's universe and character, but the one thing that most people agree on is how great of a villain Vulture is. The first time I actually felt fear from a villain in the MCU was when Peter finds out that his date's dad is the Vulture. You could cut the tension in that room with a knife, and the best part is, for a long time, Vulture doesn't even know that Peter is Spider-Man. It's the threat of him knowing that builds up this anxiety as you would with glimpses of a monster in a horror movie. And then it all explodes when he figures it out. They made a bald guy who wears a bird costume with feathers intimidating. That's an accomplishment! Oh yeah, and Michael Keaton helps out a little bit. Okay, he helps out a lot, but you know. An added bonus is that Peter can't hide his shock. It's good to see characters have these sort of flaws that come to bite them in the ass. It's becoming a rare thing. Overall, it's a great use of dramatic irony within the story, and that leads to point 2. How often do you feel scared for the characters in these movies? How often do they end up with actual losses? The answer is very rarely. This is another reason why these movies are so great and so many people like them. These are standouts in a franchise that so rarely puts their heroes in any real position of loss. It's just so rarely that the MCU makes us care enough about the loss of anything else because the heroes are the focus of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The Avengers are the lifeblood of the MCU. Batman is a fantastic character. But you could substitute him for a lesser version and be fine because his rogues and universe are so rich. Hell, this is kind of what they did in The Dark Knight. Heath Ledger's Joker completely overshadows Batman in this. The same cannot be said for the MCU, and the best installments in the MCU use this to their advantage. One of the best examples of stakes and genuine drama in the MCU is Civil War, where Iron Man finds out that the man Captain America has been so avidly defending and protecting killed his parents. And Steve didn't tell Tony. This creates real drama and tension, and it takes the story in a direction that is both surprising and makes sense. Steve wants to defend his only living friend from the 40s and rehabilitate him. He understands that Bucky has no control over his actions, that he was just a tool. Tony knows this, but he's prone to impulse and to vengeance. This is something that's been a part of his character from day one, and the conflict between them is lasting. It has impact. It's not just a one-and-done ordeal, and it makes the reunion between them in Infinity War and in Endgame stronger. Another reason why there's a lack of tension is the failure to properly integrate humor. I think the Russo brothers have come closest to doing this well, another reason why they have arguably the most popular MCU films. I think the worst offender of this, though, is Age of Ultron. Now, I was hyped as shit for this movie because Ultron is one of my favorite Marvel villains, up there with Doctor Doom and Green Goblin. So you can imagine my disappointment when they turned him from a cold, menacing comic book Terminator into a snarky and quirky robot cracking jokes throughout the entire movie. Also another fucking Infinity Stone motive. I did like this scene though, this was cool. Bring back Vision. Tony was enough pain. And this is a problem with Star Wars 2, particularly the sequel trilogy. Kylo Ren has been the butt of jokes since Episode 7, and they made General Hitler into a floor mat, and had Snoke fall onto the ground with his tongue sticking out, and... Breaking this tension with a joke is fine in the moment, it can even be hilarious, but this hurts the film overall because it robs the story and the villains of fear and threat. Struggles become less effective or demanding, and Star Wars needs all the help it can get in this area. So many MCU movies take place in New York or some other dull, gray city, but this is mostly due to the MCU's color palette. Some of the better MCU movies have had more interesting locations, and even the ones that have a lot of these repetitive flaws excel in this. Doctor Strange is visually compelling and interesting, and Guardians of the Galaxy takes place in space! Which is a very nice change of pace from the typical environments we're placed in. Even Star Wars suffers from this. As rich as a universe as Star Wars is, how is it that we're always on some desert planet or agonizingly long starship chase? We've seen casinos before, and, well, Crate is actually pretty visually interesting. I will give The Last Jedi that! That's really it, though. Fucking Infinity Stone plots! Fucking Infinity Stone! The hero starts out as an arrogant asshole who suffers a great loss at the hands of a life-changing event. Shit, I don't even remember what happens in Thor. What even is the second act again? So many of the MCU characters start out as shitty people, and their arc consists of becoming a better person, usually dropping selfishness to some degree or another. If it's not that, it's a redemption arc, and holy hell, there's a lot of those. All of these contribute to the same overall problem with a lot of franchises. Almost all of the MCU films have this quirky humor usually throughout the entire film. Now, I've already said that this can disrupt the tension in a film, but again, it also contributes to the fatigue we can feel from the MCU because it makes the movies feel the same. It creates the same tone. And it also makes the characters feel a little too similar. Thor is now a very popular character with the audience, but he has little to no resemblance to what he was at first. In some ways, this is a good thing. Thor resonates with audiences more, and he has become a favorite Avenger of many. In others, it contributes to a lack of diversity in characters because now he shares an already popular character trait. This is why Vision is one of my favorite characters in the MCU, because he's so different from anything we'd gotten up until that point. And then he got next to no development. Unsurprisingly, this has become an issue in Star Wars as well, and many people have claimed to be suffering from franchise fatigue with Star Wars. Every movie Lucasfilm has released since the Disney acquisition has had this similar humor to the Marvel movies, with the exception of Rogue One. Another reason why that's likely the most popular Star Wars film released since the buyout. Most of the humor we get in Rogue One is from K2, which is commonplace within the Star Wars films because droids have always been the comedic relief since the very beginning. Contrast this to Episode 7 and 8 and even Solo, and there's a lot of jokes. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, but when it's so common, people gravitate more so to movies like Rogue One because they feel so different. It's not a space adventure, it's more of a serious spy or war flick. This is another reason why, amongst many, Empire and Revenge of the Sith are fan favorites. They are the two darkest entries in the franchise, and they play the most with other tones and genres, and that's probably the biggest thing that's being neglected right now in cinema in general. Star Wars is my favorite fictional universe of all time, and I could consume new material from it without end and never get bored because one of the best aspects of the Star Wars setting was how different the stories could be in the expanded universe. Did you know there were literal fucking zombies in Star Wars? Extragalactic Hellraiser Cenobites taking over the galaxy while getting off the torture porn? Yes! Eldritch abominations and Lovecraftian horror? Noir detective stories? Film studios need to start looking at their franchises as settings and not as genres. Because I don't think the majority of people are feeling necessarily franchise fatigue, but a sort of genre fatigue that suffers from a very serious and common problems that are fairly consistent. We're getting the same shit over and over again. There's a wealth of possibilities for these universes that's not being explored because we're eating up what's being pumped out of the factory. We're eating McDonald's instead of the new restaurant opening up downtown. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but this is something that DC Comics seems to be doing right. The DCEU has not been the most successful. Fuck's sake, does anyone other than the Facebook mobs demanding a Snyder cut of Justice League like this shit? But they are going in a new direction with the Joker movie. It looks like there's going to be a character piece with a new story, setting, genre, and a sea of superhero blockbusters, and this is why I'm so excited to see what they have in store come in October. It's something different within a franchise commonly accused of fatigue because, again, it's not the universe people are tired of. Hell, half the time we're just tired of shitty movies. Is shitty movie fatigue a thing? So, in the future, I'd like to see studios begin to cover new territory and ideas, while also being good, because switching genres or tone alone does not guarantee success. Again, the DCEU confirms this.
Manslaughter.
Yeah, a little more like manslaughter than actual murder.
Yeah.
Franchises have a lot more to fix than just that, but I'm hoping that the Joker is a huge success and it helps to spark new life into superhero movies and film in general. Thank you all for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.